Watsi, Gait Dawa, Chudrayasht, Du Shinume, Kudashuma, Shashka Hanu, Sudai. In honor, recognition, and celebration of Native American Heritage Month, Indigenous Education is hosting this Indigenous panel moderated by me, Bridget Niconi, Director of Scholarships and Programs here at IEI, located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I just want to first acknowledge the staff of IEI for putting this event on together for us. We acknowledge the land that we're in, New Mexico, as Pueblo, Apache, and Navajo territories. So please let us know where you're from and which ancestral lands you live on or work or attend school. And thank you for joining us on this day with so much going on in the world. We're excited to take this time and be able to come together in this virtual, safe environment. We have invited friends, scholars, colleagues, family from an array of locations, tribes, careers, and interests. Together with the panelists and my staff and colleagues, I can see where our pathways have crossed many times. And it's good to be in a collection, a network of people who support each other along the way. That's the Native traditional way. I come from the Pueblo of Acoma in the Roadrunner clan by way of many places. I grew up around the globe from a military family, and I've been blessed to have had some great educational opportunities, positions in amazing places, working with dynamic individuals, and experiences I have had as a result of the choices I've made and the ones that were made for me have led me here today. Again, it's great to see you all. I follow you on all of your social networks. That's how I keep up with you. I would also like to acknowledge at this time Eloise Cobell, Yellow Bird Woman, for her amazing contribution to Native people through education. Eloise broke through many barriers, some of the toughest, for her people to get justice. Our entire existence depends on what we choose to do with that. So IEI decided to begin a movement with our Indigenous campaign, the theme of this panel. Indigenous, genius ideas, indigenous minds. In our way, we've defined as an individual, collective, or a movement who through natural ability inspires others in innovation and creation by expressing one's traditional and cultural knowledge to advance community, an indigenous genius. I want to introduce you to our panel of indigenous leaders who will share their own words and experiences that have led them to pursue their goals, dreams, and aspirations, which has led many on their journeys. And we hope your interests might resonate and that you may be able to relate to your own experiences and will inspire you to keep reaching and following your indigenous self. I'm honored and proud to introduce our first guest panelist. Of course, they are all leaders. They're all accomplished, distinguished producers of Native content, providers of the Native context, and all of them are an indigenous reflection of Native tribal lives and ways. First, we have on our panel, Rocky Tanu, the Chief Executive Officer of Obsidian websites. Rocky is Navajo, Japanese, and Filipino, with his strong ties to the Navajo Nation, where he was born and raised. Upon graduating from NAU with a BA in Fine Arts in Visual Communications, he began his career in various corporations, working in the field of brand marketing design and website development. Rocky's eventual big move would be the establishment of Obsidian Web, a comprehensive website development and brand marketing firm. In his current capacity, he serves as president and CEO, with a relentless focus to fulfill the mission of the company, which is to serve the Native American entrepreneur. small to large corporations, and tribal organizations, with unprecedented websites, dynamic online experiences, and elevated brand exposure. Rocky is a visionary, having served as creative lead over a collection of prestigious brand logos, interactive websites, and visual assets that are recognized nationwide. At his core, he pays particular attention and respect to serving with integrity, hosho, balance, cultural awareness, and consideration for each client as treasured relationships. And today, the firm continues to succeed in a positive motion. I want to add that Rocky is responsible for our Cobell webpage, much of our marketing, and the creator of our Yellow Bird Woman logo. Rocky is part of the essential team member of the IEI team. So I want to welcome Rocky. Rocky and I have a Hawaiian bond there too.
Mahalo, Bridget. Thank you.
Next, we have Dr. John Little. John is Dakota and a member of the Standing Rock Nation and a Cobell Graduate Fellow from 2018. He received his PhD from the University of Minnesota in 2020 and is a postdoc fellow at the Institute of American Indian Studies and the Oral History Center, and will be a postdoctorate fellow at the University of South Dakota starting in January 2021. He is the co-director of the award-winning film, More Than a Word. John is brave for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And John is always willing to step up and help IEI and to represent the indigenous brand. And he's certainly following in Eloise Cobell's footsteps. Next, we have Megan Redshirt Shaw. She's Oglala Lakota and current Cobell Scholar. She's director of the Native Student Services at the University of South Dakota. And Megan is the director of Native Student Centers at the University of South Dakota and a current PhD student in organizational leadership, policy, and development with a focus in higher education and a minor in American Indian Studies at the University of Minnesota. Prior to her PhD program, she worked in undergraduate admissions, college access, and college counseling. She is the founder of Natives in America, an online literary publication for Native youth. Welcome, Megan. Tiffany is the owner and creator of artist at Yellow Hammer Designs and is a member of the Chemehuevi tribe, Indian tribe of Havasu, Lake, California. She is also Kuyunkawi and Nisinan from the Sierra Mountains in the northern part of California. Tiffany was recently elected in October of 2020 as the vice chairman or chairwoman of the Chemehuevi Indian tribe and will be serving beside her cousin, Chairwoman Sierra Pencia. Tiffany is an artist, painter, sculptor, jeweler, and cultural bearer. Her work includes portraiture that utilizes articles and text pertaining to the feminine experience by connecting images and performance with cultural, political, and social issues. Tiffany rewrites common narratives through her process. Tiffany's assertion of the arts is at the forefront of a decolonizing praxis that asserts tribal identity in artistic and educational practice. In the collection, Yes, They Are Real, her ethnographic methods in fine arts is a representation of culture and identity, which addresses unconscious biases. Her work in traditional tattoo practices and text have been a cathartic process of reclamation as California Indian women seek to retain their traditional practices. Welcome, Tiffany. Next, we have Sovereign Bill. Sovereign is Tlingit and Muckleshoot from the Tlingit and Muckleshoot tribal nations. She is a junior excelling in Auburn High School. Sovereign is the voice of Molly Mabray from the PBS Kids TV show, Molly of Denali. She is a member of Kutia Alaskan Dance Group and lead puller in the Muckleshoot canoe family, in which she has been a member since birth. When the annual canoe canoe journey is over and summer is coming to an end. Auburn laments the time of transitioning back into a school year and wishes it was opposite, that all the Indigenous learning could take place in the majority of the year and the formal public education was a shorter amount of time during the summer. I met Auburn when she was younger, and I don't know if she remembers me or not, but I got to visit her at her school, and it was a joy to meet you, Auburn. Thank you for being here today. Next, we have Robin Pratt. Robin is a member of the Central Council of Tlingit and Haida Indian Tribes. Is the Native American Education Coordinator for Auburn School District. Robin Pratt has been an educator for 24 years, working in the Auburn School District for 21 of those years. She is the mother to 3 amazing kids. One of them is Auburn and has a master's in education. Her role as a Native American coordinator is to help students believe in themselves, help them build healthy academic habits, know themselves as Native people, and take steps toward their dreams, to help schools recognize the cultural assets that students bring, and to value those strengths and to build upon those. I have a close relationship with Robin. We were in the Gates Read. We have a really good Gates connection. Robin is always willing to step up and share her cultural traditions with us. So thank you, Robin, for being here. We are going to get started with some questions from our scholars. We have asked our scholars to send in some questions, and we have come up with some questions of our own. They are combined. And I want to start off this first question to 2 of our panelists, Tiffany and Sovereign. So we'll start off with Tiffany. Tiffany, how and when did you know what you wanted to do with your life?
Oh my goodness. You know, except for the education component, I believe I knew when I was pretty young. I got really sidetracked with a lot of the things we get sidetracked with. But, you know, since I was a little girl, I always wanted to be an artist and I always wanted to be a leader for my tribe. I've been, you know, a working artist for about 15 years and have been going to school for about 9. I recently graduated from the Institute of American Indian Arts with my Bachelor's of Fine Art and a minor in Indigenous Liberal Studies. And, you know, I went back to school as an older student at 46 years old, drove off to IA when I was 50. But except for that, you know, little side, you know, little detour there, you know, I've always pretty much known. Somebody asked me recently, you know, if you could be doing anything you wanted with your life right now, any work that you wanted, what would you be doing? And it's like exactly what I'm doing right now. You know, being the vice chair, being elected as the vice chair is like, you know, it's like my little girl dreams come true. And then also being able to create art and so much beauty through jewelry and paintings and all of those things, but also, you know, kind of dismantling, you know, ideas about Indigenous beauty, especially as it pertains to women, and the need to conform to Western beauty standards has been an incredible experience for me. You know, Bridget, I think we're close to the same age. You know, it was a very, very different, you know, 40 years ago for young women, and the expectations, at least they were where I grew up. And so being able to, you know, follow my dreams at a later age and do what I'm doing, it just reminds me that restoration is possible, that reclamation is possible by following our dreams and really following our heart. You know, coming down here, it wasn't, you know, I wanted to be down here and I wanted to work for my tribe, but you know, it wasn't the perfect time. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. I left my partner in Northern California, but it felt like the right time. And if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And so I made the decision to just pack up and move on down here and work for my tribe. And it's been absolutely wonderful. It's been great.
That's great. Somehow we know, you know, and I love everything you say, and it really makes so much sense, you know, and you bring so much beauty and intelligence to our world. So keep doing the good work.
Thank you, Bridget.
Mhm. Sovereign, I'd like to ask you the same question.
Okay, thank you. So for me, it wasn't one like decision or kind of like exactly like, oh, this is what I want to do, but I kind of fell into acting, and I was in a Native youth theater group called Ready Go Soaring, and then I was able to audition for this role. So it's kind of like a complete surprise. Like I had no idea I would be ending up doing this, but I have, in a way, like been prepared like throughout my life. I have done a lot of public speaking, and I've done a lot of being in like Kutia dance group and being in the canoe family. Performing in those more traditional senses, but I think it still has prepared me, and I've always been kind of a character, so I think that's definitely like helped me decide like that this is definitely something that I want to continue. It's still very new, and I still have a lot of hope and ideas for what I want to do in the future, and nothing is really set in place yet. But yeah, I think it's really.
That's great. Sovereign, tell us a little bit about the Canoe Society. How does that keep you grounded?
Wow, yeah. So I've been in the canoe family since I was born, basically, and I've been going on canoe journey as a polar for a few years now. I started pulling when I was 9, and it's always just when I'm on the water, it feels like I'm at home. It's really an amazing experience out there, and I'm with my family, and it can be very rough out there, but you do see a lot of beautiful moments, and you just feel completely connected to your culture and to your people. And so yeah, I think it definitely helps me keep my strong cultural identity.
And I like the part where you said Molly was a complete surprise to you. And so we're so glad that that opportunity came up for you. And I love the show. I'll watch it, I'm sure. And I can see your mom just beaming over there. Robin. Robin, I want to ask you, did you have a clear plan of what you were going to do by going into education? And if you did, how did you go about that plan?
Well, it started in probably around high school, and I was in art, and I loved art. And I always had the crossroads. Do I want to be an artist, or do I want to be a teacher? And I guess for me, as I went, I knew that I needed higher education. I needed to earn a degree, and then you're constantly deciding what it is you want to do. And as I started that journey, I would reflect on my experiences as a Native child in a public school. And that's about when I started thinking about education as a pathway. Did that answer your question? Because my mind just went all over the place.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, when I hear you talking, I keep thinking about your work at Auburn, and just I'm visualizing like I'm there, because it was a beautiful visit when I got to visit you there. Not just at the school, but through the town, and where you folks are from, and it brings me back. So thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'd like to ask the next question to Megan and Rocky. When did you both decide to go into your current areas? I'll start with Megan. At what point of your journey?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was having
Yay.
internet issues before. I think that I grew up in a family where they were working in higher education. And I think as a young person, I didn't ever realize that it was something that I was going to pursue in my career and in my life. But one of the things that my parents were really powerful at doing was making me feel like Native presence in higher education spaces was normal. And so I was always surrounded by Native students that they were mentoring or working with. And I'm really grateful to them for that, because it made me feel like the experience was possible for me as well. I learned quickly as an undergraduate that there are not enough of us in higher education spaces, not enough of us who are given the opportunity to pursue higher education. And so I think as an undergraduate and just moving into my work after college, being really committed to allowing students to pursue college if they felt like it was the right fit for them. I think also learning over time that honoring different knowledge systems, like Sovereign has talked about, right, is really, really important in schooling. And so I think for me, I think probably somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew it in my life that was what I knew and what I felt excited about. But it wasn't until I had the experience myself that I really started to ask the question of whether or not I wanted to be one piece of a Native student's journey as they pursued higher education. So gradually, but like was shared before, I can't imagine doing anything else. And I'm very grateful for the opportunities I've been given.
Yeah, I'm really glad that your parents and your surrounding made it tangible for you to achieve, in that kind of thriving environment, It's great. I'm glad you're able to share that too with us. I have a follow-up question, Megan. In what ways can a current scholar assist in bringing more Native American students into higher education?
Absolutely. And, I just really want to thank the IEI team, Bridget and Milani and Julia and everybody that works closely with students to help them feel like these opportunities are possible. I know that funding is a huge barrier of access for many of our students. And so just really encouraging students to know that they have these resources like Cobell available to them. John and I in our work have worked with many students in providing scholarship resources to them. And so I think really just encouraging students to know that these resources are available, compiling lists, walking them to the financial aid office, those types of things are so important and critical in our work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm reeling because that was my area before scholarships, admissions. And I just want to thank Michelle Henry from she's a Choctaw from Washington College for that question. That was one of our scholar questions. So thank you, students and scholars, for submitting questions. I'm going back to the first question, though. I want to hear a response from Rocky. When did you decide to go into your current area?
Oh, that's a great question. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I was always very interested in art from the time I was really young, and I kind of learned early on that I kind of had a certain style that was maybe a little bit different than a lot of my friends. Growing up on the reservation, there's a lot of killer artists I'm sure many people can relate to. They're just very gifted in that field. So I kind of migrated more towards what now I know to be a little bit more of a contemporary style, something that fused and merged a lot of different things. And so early on, I wanted to do that. I didn't know which avenue it would take me in. Both my parents are educators, so they kind of wanted me to go the teaching route as a safety net. And so I said, okay, cool. Well, I'll do art. And I was in college, and as much as I wanted to be a teacher, kind of get my parents really excited, I was always involved in art. And one particular class I was taking with my wife at the time. Well, she's still my wife now. She was my girlfriend then, but I was sitting in class and we're in chemistry class. I'll never forget it. And she said, let me take a look at your notes. And I gave her my notebook, and it was just filled with a bunch of different renderings, drawings, art, logos of different things. And she said, okay, this is enough. You have to go with what your passion is. And so at that moment, I made the switch. And it's been an amazing, amazing journey since that time. Got my degree. And so at that point, I think it was almost in phases. I knew that what I wanted to do, and that was to continue to pursue my degree, get it, work in the field a little bit, get my feet wet, which I was grateful to do. When I graduated, it was, shortly after 9/11. So the market was really hard. So you almost had to create your own job, which is what we did. So I was fortunate and blessed to stay in the field. And then I worked in the corporate sector for a while. And then you kind of reach that point where you say, okay, I can, a pivotal spot where, or for me anyway, it was like, okay, I can continue to give 110% to build someone else's dream and empire, basically, or I can make the switch and invest in ourselves and invest in our who we're going to serve, which is from the very beginning, it was going to be always going to be to serve our native communities, indigenous populations, as far as entrepreneurs, tribal governments. So we made that switch. It was really very exciting to see the what opened up when we did that. And so we've been really fortunate to be able to serve in that capacity, in providing what we do. So it was a few different moments throughout the journey where it was triggered, and our direction was led to say, okay, this is what you need to do right here. Go ahead and make the leap. And it is a leap, I think, a lot of times, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you take that. It is a huge leap. It's a big risk. What I feel like, I believe that if you believe in yourself and believe and have a really strong supporting cast, that's huge, and you can definitely make things happen. So.
Well, we're really blessed that you made the choices and decisions when you did.
So am I.
I think it's a good way to explain our example sometimes of how we create stuff out of nothing. We can take a rock and make an art out of it. Opportunity,
Definitely.
make opportunities where there aren't any. We create our own. I feel that all of you are creatives. That's a new thing that I've come across recently. With people who are mixing their medias and their text and all of their politics, and it's all connected. So it really affirms that for me anyway. Thanks, Rocky. I always love what you do.
Sure, thank you.
I want to do a follow-up question with you, Rocky. What is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self? Or any advice that you were given that you took besides your wife's suggestion from the professional,
Sure.
Starting your business, being an entrepreneur, all that stuff.
Sure. I don't know if there'd be one thing. There's many things that I would tell my young self. That's kind of a rascal, but I think in relation to this, what we're talking about here professionally, I think one piece of advice I would give myself is to, and others out there who are listening or who may listen later, is to trust your instincts 100%. I think at the beginning, we're always kind of hesitant, right? Whether it's getting things set up, whether it's making the investments here and there to build your business. I think if you can really trust your instincts 100% right off the get-go is a really key factor. Something that I would tell myself, because now that I look back in certain parts of our business, there's things that I wish I would have done that I could have done then, which is kind of almost a little too late to do now. So I kind of had to adjust and modify. Thankfully, it wasn't as detrimental, but there are things that we can do to trust yourself. And also, I think something that I would give, especially the young entrepreneurs, if you have a great idea, you have the passion, there's always going to be people that are going to want to become a part of that. And I would say be really careful with who you partner with. I like to say partner, because when you have something great and special, not to say that that's what their intentions are, but they're not as invested as you're going to be. And so for them to just walk away when the ship starts going down is very easy for them to do, as compared to what it's going to be for yourself, because your name's on it, your reputation, your integrity is on that. So be really careful and mindful with who you let into that circle, and it has to be a really strong circle. And it's okay to be that way. You don't have to go and invite 20 people in right away. You want to grow steady, grow with balance, and find those people in your lives that you can trust no matter what, through thick and thin, because those are the people that'll give you the advice you need and a lot of times, maybe it's not what you want to hear, but it's what you need to hear at those moments. So that's what I would advise.
Thanks, Rocky. Trust has always been a big deal for Indians.
Mhm.
So I get that. I think a lot of us already have that instincts,
Mhm.
our indigenous instincts.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Ryan Cornelius from the Zuni Pueblo, who's going to Dartmouth College for that question. So thank you, Rocky, for
All right.
that piece of advice question.
Sure.
And now I'm going to go to John. John, what were some of the greatest challenges you have personally seen, experiences, and faced throughout, maybe a couple examples, your journey in Indian Indian higher education journey? Indian, non-Indian.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think, for me, I went I guess, public institution. I don't know if I'm allowed to say names or not, but I went to a public institution in South Dakota. And if you know me, it's pretty easy to figure out. But I think one of the hardest things that for me going there was there wasn't so much a connected. There were other native students, but there wasn't really something that kind of connected us all. There was a center. I think every time I went and visited the center, it was in the basement of the student union, and they just built like a $5 or $6 million native center that opened up this summer, and it's just crazy to see the length that they've gone from. But anyway, I would go in there, and it was like a little tiny room in a basement, and it was always dark, and I don't think they had anybody that was. I think it was just a graduate student, and so I think really it was hard to kind of find community on that. And I had a lot of other friends that were non-native that were very supportive of me, but it was just kind of hard to find my identity and think about who I was as an Indigenous person when you can't really connect with other native students. And so it feels really lonesome. And I took a native studies class there, and I can remember one of the professors telling the entire class, that there were all these different divisions in the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, the Ocheti, Shakopee, and I remember him saying something, but they don't really intermarry. They stay within a lot of their things. And I was like, well, tell that to my grandparents who come from different sections of it. And so I think it was really hard. Just that was a really challenging thing for me, is finding myself and like who I was on a campus that was predominantly non-native. And so I think those were challenges that I don't think I would change anything. I've always thought about that because I work with a lot of youth, a lot of native youth, helping them get them to college. And I'm always jealous when, they get to go to a Dartmouth, they get to go to a school that traditionally served native students, or even a school like we did a screening last night at Arizona State. And there was just a ton of native students there. And so I'm always kind of a little bit jealous that they get that community, but at the same time, it really taught me how to navigate spaces and kind of create your own community. I had to build community kind of from the ground up. And it's so in a way, I don't regret it, because it taught me how to network and work with other universities and other institutions to find any native spaces in the town and also on campus. So I think that was one challenge that I faced, when I was younger. And then, I guess more recently, a more recent challenge in higher education was just finishing a PhD. I think oftentimes people love to quote the statistics of native students in higher education, and then how, those success rates are pretty low, unfortunately. And they're even lower as you get in more advanced into graduate schools. And so I think I was one when I started in the history department. There had been a couple that had just graduated, but I think I was one of around 70 people in the Minnesota PhD program. And I was one of 70 people in there, and I was the only native student in there. They've added a few people since I left. They've done a really good effort in kind of recruiting more native students for that. But it was really difficult. The field of history is a really conservative field, and so I don't fit in there. They're doing, and a lot of times they're studying history in the past and not wanting to connect it to the present. And so it was a really difficult transition. I was fortunate to have an advisor who actually is, I think, on Cobell, Jeannie O'Brien. And I think I would not have survived without her. So I think, I'm thankful for that. But I think just creating that community again was really difficult. And I was fortunate there's a lot of other Native students that are all scattered throughout campus and graduate programs. But just being kind of alone in a lot of those classes, a lot of times when I had to take the required history classes, I was the only Native person in there. And so just getting through that. But again, finding community, I was great. Like it really had a really great supportive partner in Megan throughout that time and stuff. And so I think you just have to kind of find and create community. And I think those are two examples of like when it was difficult to find that community. But if you look around hard enough for it, whether it's local, whether it's national, there's different ways to kind of create that.
Especially now virtual, this is a new realm of community that I've embraced, and that we should all embrace, as much as we can, and know when, it's good to step away from it too, but you've made, really good lemonade out of, lemons, sometimes, where we go, that's what we have to do. And I would love to take one of your classes. I really enjoy learning from you. Good response, John.
Yeah,
and that was brought to us by, I guess that's one of our in-house questions. Oh no, sorry, Shelley Swanson from Bad River, Ojibwe, and she's in the school district of Bayfield. That was her question. I have only a few more questions left, but I wanted to follow up, John, with you on that. Has there been any change in your direction in 2020 as a result of the pandemic, or are you just forging ahead with your original plan?
Oh, I feel like my whole life has changed.
I mean, not to get too personal or anything, just, professionally,
Yeah, professionally, I Meg and I are transitioning out of our current positions with that, and I don't think that was pandemic influenced. I think we just wanted to explore other opportunities, but I think it's been difficult. We've had to get really creative in what we do, whatever we're doing with Native students. Oftentimes, like I've been fortunate with the program I'm at that I'm leaving. I've been able to work with 160 plus Native students over the last 6 years. And so, one of those things for me, on one hand, it's healing for me to talk to them and work with them because, like I said, I sometimes didn't feel like I had some of those role models, especially during my undergrad, like Native role models. And so it's been really great to work with students to kind of to feel like you can be a role model in a way that I never had that. And so I think that's been one thing that we've been having to be creative with, though, because it's obviously I can't meet them in person. So I used to travel so much that I'd be able to be like, oh, I'm going to be in your area. Let me take you out to lunch. It's a little bit more difficult. So we've had to get more creative. I feel like I'm on Zoom at least 3 or 4 hours a day, probably. And I think
that's different.
Yeah, that's been the big transition. I think we did the college fair a couple weeks ago, or about over a month ago now. That was originally supposed to be in person. We were supposed to have, I think, 700 or so, local Native kids coming to that. And we had to put it online. And I think we still had about 300 or 400, but it's obviously difficult and you have to adjust and you have to be really ready to do that. But I think I'm grateful for a lot of it in a way, because it's gotten me to think outside the box as far as how to do these things. And I think I'm realizing I was thinking so locally with stuff, which I think is something that all people should be doing. You should be serving the communities that are local, but at the same time, it's gotten me to think more nationally. So we opened up the college fair and we were able to serve students in Oklahoma. We had a couple from New York, California. And so just rethinking like how to best serve like local Native communities, but then also kind of spreading it out to national communities has been kind of an adjustment for me as well too.
Yeah, I mean, I would never wish this on anybody, but there seems to be an upside to people spending more time together with your family. Wow, what a concept, cooking at home, and those kinds of things, that we really value our families. So I'm glad you're staying safe and everything where you are, both of you. I have a question for Sovereign. Who or what motivates or what inspires you?
Okay, so I think overall, like Native people inspire me, and Native culture and or like Native community, because as we've seen like throughout history and throughout like these tragedies that have happened to our people, they we've always been able to overcome them and to keep fighting through them. And it's just they're very resilient. And I think that's something I definitely love, like to know. Like I know if I'm going through a hardship or I'm going through something, I know that I come from very strong people. And so I think that definitely inspires me in a big sense. And then I also have a couple very influential women in my life. I think my grandma is she's just a beautiful person. She's very kind and generous, and has a lot of traits that I hopefully can take away from her, or learn from her. That's what I meant. And my mom as well. She's very strong-willed, and she has a lot of compassion for her family and for her students, and she's always had that. So I think those are those are a few things that inspired me.
That's great. I like that you have those, those things that run through your head, those voices or that feeling or that strength that generates itself, it regenerates itself in you. And yeah, I'm sure you're going to be an inspiration to a lot of other people, and even not even knowing it, So let's see here. This question is for Tiffany. Do you have any of those daily affirmations that you give yourself, Tiffany? What is it that inspires you and motivates you to keep going?
Wow. Well, I'm always saying, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this,
Short and sweet.
I think we all, I think everybody can relate to experiencing or feeling, imposter syndrome. And, like, how did I even get here? With my art, with, you were talking about scholarships earlier. The tens of thousands of dollars that I, received in scholarships. I didn't pay one dime for my education. I just worked my butt off for scholarships. And I love that somebody touched on that. I love leading people to scholarships and helping them find ways to pay for their education. I think that's one of the main impediments to Indigenous people seeking higher education, is the fear of not being able to afford it. And then also directing, young scholars to tribal colleges, which are more affordable, and really kind of recognize the uniqueness of every student, and, acknowledge what they bring from their tribe. And, they're met not with the deficit model, but with, curiosity and, interest in all the things that they are. So that's really beautiful. But I think the things that I tell myself every day is that, I say this a lot, and it might sound a little bit corny, but, I'll just be honest and say that, I'm a recovering addict. I've been in recovery for, it'll be 22 years in January. And before I got clean, my life was pretty horrible and very painful. And so, during that process of recovering and restoration, I really remembered who I was as a child. And so when I would hear like myself before saying, we can't do this, and I'm scared and all of this stuff, I would kind of be mean to that person, like, hey, be quiet, or I really just tell her to shut up. And now, I kind of go to that person, I recognize her as being scared. I recognize her as, having that trepidation. And I just always say, you know what, Tiffany, it's okay. Don't worry. I'm never going to leave you again. And I just tell myself that every single day. I just remind myself that I'm not leaving me. I'm not going to leave my responsibilities, and that, I can walk through anything with the support that I have. I love that Rocky talked a lot about that, about having support. I've received tons of support from all the scholars that I've gone to school with. You know, Bridget, you know, I don't know if I've told you this, but before I started school, you know, when you were working at Berkeley, you really inspired me to get my education. I thought, you know, here's this Indigenous woman and she's working to, you know, in recruitment and to help Native students. And I'm like, you know, maybe I can do this. And suddenly I was like surrounded by all these incredible scholars that, you know, were asking me what my degree was in, and I hadn't even graduated from high school. And, you know, that's when I started on my education journey. But, you know, it's women like you and all the people, all my support system, that when I forget, sometimes when I forget, you know, who I am, or I need that support, I reach out and get it. And I'm reminded by all the incredible Indigenous people in my life who remind me that, you know, of everything that we've gone through and we're still here and that we can do anything together.
Wow, Tiff, I was gonna cry at the beginning when you started talking, and then in the middle I was gonna cry again, and then at the end I'm gonna cry.
I was happy.
I had no idea, but you know what, everything you say is true, you know, so thank you for being you, you know, being real. And I have to, sorry, did I interrupt you, Tiffany? Okay.
No.
Let's see, we're getting near the 10-minute mark, or past the 10-minute mark. I want to ask the students here, Megan and Sovereign, how are you managing the pandemic? Let's just go with Megan first.
I want to hear more from Sovereign. I told everybody at the beginning I was so excited to be on this panel with Sovereign. You know, I think I'm a graduate student. I'm virtual. I'm serving students while I'm also trying to work on my graduate degree. So that's a difficult balance. I think all of us, you know, coming from community-focused places, are always you know, trying to help other people. And so I think sometimes it can be really difficult to remember why you have to do your academic work. So that's a challenge that I face. But again, you know, I'm just so grateful to Cobell for believing in me as a graduate student. And I know that there are so many other students that are so grateful for the support that you provide to us. I think it's just that daily reminder of like why I need to do the work, why I need to open a book. I'm not always great at remembering how to do that, but I hope that in working together through our scholarship, that we're able to support each other and be vulnerable and say, you know, I need help, or reach out for connection to people that are going through the same thing. So if there are any other Native graduate students that are watching this and you're struggling, I'm here, and I'm struggling too. And I really want to be connected, and I'm grateful to all of my friends who are going through it as well, and to the support that they provide too.
Yeah, so you could call each other up and ask each other, why? Tell me why again. Why was I doing this? Okay, let's hear from Sovereign.
So yeah, this is definitely a very interesting time and an interesting experience, and it has been like difficult, and you have to rely on yourself a lot more. It's a lot of kind of, you teach yourself, you do all, you have to have a lot of like good time management skills, which I don't always have the best, but it's definitely been a learning curve. Like now I do feel more comfortable in being online school, and it's still hard because you don't get to see your classmates or get that social I don't remember the word now, but that social aspect. And you and so yeah, that's definitely been difficult, but yeah, I'm not sure what else to say now, but
No, that's good. I just want, you know, to tell you, you know, that hang in there. That's all we can say. You know, we don't know, you know, exactly what's going to happen. As you know, older people, sometimes you look to elders for all the answers or whatever, and this is at least one time where we don't know. We haven't got a clue. But it seems that everybody is doing well, hanging in there, being safe, celebrating this month, Native American Heritage Month, Indigenous, and tomorrow, when is it? In a couple of days, it's Thanksgiving, right? So I would like one of you to volunteer to just wrap us up and tell us what that means to you. If you have a real strong feeling about that and can word it, you know, all in one final, what Native American Heritage Month or Thanksgiving means to you.
So I'll say what Thanksgiving means to me. So Thanksgiving has just always been a time for us to give thanks for the abundance that's in our lives, mainly like the recognition of what the earth provides for us, especially, you know, it seems to be centered around food and family. And for me, it's just about being with my family. I like to think about the Thanksgiving address, you know, that I've, you know, come to know a little bit because it's very long over the last few years. And I look to that when I'm not feeling as grateful as I feel like I should, you know. I remember all those blessings that are given to us and provided for us by the Creator. And then also that we experience in spaces like this and with all these incredible scholars and people that we come to know in our lives. And then Indigenous, you know, Native American Heritage Month is an incredible time for all of us. It's like that for us all the time, but to see all the, you know, the images that are shared now through social media, to see the pride and the, you know, just the passion that people have for their culture. It's, you know, I didn't have that when I was young. So to see that for our young people today, that they never have to be without that. You know, that they always have that pride and that sense of place and sense of who they are as we come into this new age of technology and we can access information like never before. You know, nobody has to go without knowing about who they are, even if they weren't raised with their culture. So for me, this is just a really exciting time filled with art and love and food and family and all these incredible images of people across the United States sharing their Indigenous culture with the world. It's just an incredible time.
I love it. It's like an explosion, you know, like, pow. So let's end it on that note. You know, let's keep it going. I want to thank everyone for being on our panel. If anyone would like to stick around, we do have a few other notes we can add about Indigenous education. My team has prepared a couple other slides at the end here. If one of them would like to take over here. Thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Mike Wiss.
Hello, Milani, back on. So we don't have any additional slides. However, I did want to open up the floor if anybody had any special announcements or wanted to speak on any of the work that they are currently doing. I'll just open the floor for that for about 2 minutes and then we'll wrap up.
I do want to share something really great that we're doing here on the reservation. You know, it's pandemic, we're struggling financially, all these different things, a huge turnover in our tribal government. So we're creating an outdoor drive-in theater. Really simple, a projector, a speaker, and a wall. We've just been lucky enough to find this great place with a dished out kind of, you know, land around it. And so we are purchasing a radio frequency speaker system so people can pull up in their cars, be together but social distance, and we can have a drive-in movie theater. And it's super easy to do. Anybody who's thinking like, how can I bring how can I bring my community together? It's such a great, it's so great. It's something really, really exciting that you can do on the cheap and really do something great for your community.
Right? Retro. It's so retro too.
Yes.
You know, why did we ever get away from any of that?
I don't know. Going back to it.
If there are people still on the line, we have been working really hard, you know, processing our scholarships. Please contact us at scholarships@cobellscholar.org. If you have any questions, go to our website at cobellscholar.org. No, sorry. The email is scholarships@cobellscholar.org. Anyway, it's on our website. I get a little foggy during these times. Pandemic fog, I call it.
That's a
But if
real
there
thing.
are no more announcements, I think scholarships, cobellscholar.org and scholarships at cobellscholar.org. I had it right. That's how I second guess myself. Thank you all. There's no more announcements. That's it.